Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the LaunchPad Associate Workshop Series. The LaunchPad Associate Workshop Series is an educational platform, an interactive networking platform that the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA puts on, designed to help associates meet other associates working on their level 1 material, and at the same time pick up some valuable nuggets and Easter eggs on how to best go through the various levels of the PGM program for level 1. We're very excited to have Robbie Schneider, assistant golf professional from the Los Angeles Country Club, on the webcast this afternoon. Robbie, you need no introduction. You're an assistant pro at Los Angeles Country Club by way of Sleepy Hollow in New York. Welcome to the LaunchPad Associate Workshop.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And obviously, guys, it's great to have you here today. You know, we're talking about the rules of golf, so I should be very stern and serious and dry. So I'm not going to smile very much or really do anything. I'm just kidding. Hi, everybody. My name is Robbie Schneider. So, I think I'm excited to do this topic because I know for a lot of you, this is something that I think as administrators of the game and people responsible for, we're the face of the organization at a lot of the clubs we work at. So I think this topic is very important, and it's one of my favorite activities. So I thought I'd go into it right away and just kind of give you some things that you can do that are going to help you complete this assignment, understand and appreciate the rules a little better, and we'll go from there. So a couple quick quotes to get things started. So it's one of my favorites. Golf is the only game in which a precise knowledge of the rules can earn you a reputation for bad sportsmanship. It's true. When you talk to members, anytime they talk about Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right, the guy that knows everything, oh, you shouldn't have, for a lot of these guys that play casually, it's for them, they get a little bit intimidated by knowing the rules. But as professionals, it's our responsibility to sort of bridge that gap and be the person that they can trust and go to in these situations. So, I think you have to take it upon yourself to really get into the rules, enjoy them. I know, again, it can be very dry sometimes, but I encourage you to go at it with a sense of humor, because that we need that, especially when you have your member guests or your big tournaments and people get kind of freaked out about this stuff. And one other little quick joke for you, which is, if you think it's hard to meet new people, try picking up the wrong golf ball. Great rules joke to start. All right, there ends the humor. Now we begin the dry stuff. So let's talk about our agenda today. The first thing we're going to do, talk a little bit about the history of the rules of golf. I'm going to give you some references, some things that you can use, materials you should have when you're going through and basically completing these assignments or dealing with rules issues in general. We'll talk about kind of what you're expected to know yourself as a PGA associate or a member, what you're expected to do for the assignment. We'll look at two classic rule scenarios and kind of go through them and apply what we learned together. I'll show you how to use the USGA Rules app, which will become your best friend if I've done my job by the end of this presentation. We'll go through a couple USGA quiz questions, and then I'll give a last bit of parting advice. So let's talk about the history of the rules of golf. Obviously, golf is a game that is driven by rules. It's a game where we play by ourselves, us against the course. You need something to keep us all honest and playing the same game. So the first set of written rules goes back to the Honourable Company of Edinburgh, 1744, Leith, Scotland, and there was 13 rules, some classic ones. I mean, I don't know if you can see them in the background on my screen, but it's like, if a ball be stopped by any person, horse, dog, or anything else, the ball so stopped must be played where it lies. Like, these are all classic rules that still stand the test of time, but they were just worded a little differently back then. But nevertheless, obviously, history has come a long way, and we now, through many, many years of revisions, are operated primarily by two ruling bodies. So you have the Royal and Ancient Golf Club, which pretty much handles the rest of the world. And they're based obviously in St. Andrews and founded in 1754, but based in Scotland. And then you have the United States Golf Association, based in Far Hills, New Jersey, in New York. So founded a little bit later in 1894. So these two governing bodies obviously are responsible for most of the rules of golf. And this is the kind of history stuff you should always be familiar with, because I think it helps to contextualize a lot, and it'll help you appreciate the rules more when you realize just how much history has gone into it. And it's important to note that, anyone, it doesn't have to be just like these people in the ruling bodies that can actually change the rules of golf. Anybody can. You can submit something and it actually gets reviewed by both of those governing bodies, and then it goes into effect every 4-year cycle. So a quick trivia question for you, whoever answers first. Does anyone know when the last revision was? Unmute at any time.
Robbie, was it 2020?
Not quite. Well, we had some minor ones, but what was the last major revision?
2019.
2019, that's right, where we saw a bunch of fun changes come. We lost the word water hazard. now it's penalty areas, a lot of other things we'll talk about as we move on. But it's important to know these things because you have responsibilities as a professional to be not only knowledgeable of the rules, but knowledgeable of the right set of rules, right? Every revision, things change, and you don't want to be out there giving a ruling using a 2016 book. That is not a good look. All right, so, excuse me for 1 second. So what do you need to effectively, learn and administer the rules? There's a couple materials you need. The first one, I think the most important, can't see right here. I'm gonna hold it back here. This is the official guide to the rules of golf, right? This book is gonna become your best friend. I don't know if you can see mine. I've got a lot of bookmarks in mine, so whenever you go, and you can go on the USGA website and order one of these, very, very important to have and learn how to navigate your way through it, because there's a lot of interpretations and things in here that can help you understand the rules in a way that goes in a lot more depth than the middle book there, which is either the player's guide or the regular rules of golf, which, you can actually order a bunch for your golf shop, and you should always have a couple on hand, but this is the one that you're really going to want to be able to refer to in addition to the app. And then finally, on the right side, when you have committee issues dealing with handicapping and stuff, also very useful. So once you get these materials in hand, what are you supposed to know? So there's a couple things. Number one, excuse me for 1 second. So you should have access to the latest official guide, right? You have to have this. You need to have some kind of way to get to it, either this or the app on your phone. You have to be able to have access to the rules of golf. Can't be giving rulings off the top of your head. I don't care who you are. I mean, there's maybe 3 people that could. Larry Startzel and one other guy. But honestly, most people aren't going to know it off the top of your head. So it's important to have a resource nearby, because most of the rules questions you're going to get, you'll get your cut and dry ones where Mrs. McGillicuddy comes in the golf shop and asks you to explain the bunker relief option where you can take an unplayable. But you're going to have other times where you get something really, really specific. So it's helpful to have access to that official guide. 2, as I said before, you should be familiar with... go ahead.
Hey, Robbie.
Sure.
Hey, I love that first comment. And if you guys watched the President's Cup this past weekend, on Sunday's single match, Cam Davis, had an issue. His ball was right on the, close to going into the water in a penalty area. Mm-hmm. And he was asking for a ruling. Yeah. And there was the rules official with the book in hand, right there on television, looking it up. What he was basically asking is he wanted to know if he could put the club into the water to test its depth, because he was going to have to put one leg in the water. Yeah. So he was asking if he could do that.
And these are the foremost experts on the rules, and even they have to have a book at reference.
And right there, right on national television, he had the book in hand, pulling it out.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that, Tom. And that's case in point number one. We're talking about the best experts in the world. These are the people who truly I was very lucky. So when I worked at Sleepy Hollow, I'll tell you a quick anecdote here that always makes me laugh. So I went to a 3-day rules workshop in Far Hills. And I went with my boss, a guy by the name of David Young, whose son Cameron is playing pretty good right now. Just played in his first President's Cup. But Dave is also a renowned expert on the rules. He's officiated some Masters, some PGA Championships. And I remember I get my book and I'm studying so hard. You cannot even imagine, because it's intensive. You're spending 3 days that go in detail about, each thing that you're going to do. And literally each rule, they go one by one and explain you how it works. So it's very intensive. And at the end, you take a test. And so the night before, I leave early. Everybody's out socializing. My boss, well, first of all, I took my test. I think I got an 82 or something. I did fine, good enough to feel proud about myself, because it was a hard test. Dave got a 94 and didn't even crack the cellophane on his book. So there are some people that just know more about the rules than the rest of us. It just happens. But the point of that is that even for guys like Dave, these are the foremost experts in the game. There's always going to be situations where you're not familiar and you should have the book at hand. So again, kind of moving forward here, you need to be familiar with all major revisions, right? You don't want to be referring to the wrong set of rules, so just make sure you know when those revisions are and what the revisions are. There's plenty of resources on the USGA website where they'll show you exactly what the major changes are. Number 3, know how to navigate the book. You have to know there are different sections, right? So you're going to have your table of contents. You're going to have your list of, the book is divided into different parts. So you're going to have your, the game, the player, the conduct, and the rules, the course, the competition. Understood, when you understand how it's constructed and actually go through it, figure out where the definitions are. If you know these things, it's going to be easier to navigate when Mr. Smith comes up to you and asks a question. And likewise, building on that, you have to have a system for finding the answer quickly. If you like the app, use the app and look it up. Find every keyword you can, type the keywords in, and that's going to help. If you use the book, make sure you understand how to look through the index. Just like I said in point number 3, understand, okay, where would a question be about a penalty area? Well, it's probably going to be in the section under penalty areas, which would be penalty relief, rules 17 and 19. You start to learn how to navigate the book the more you go through it. Number 5, the definitions. Just like I said, that is a very, very important part of knowing the rules. So near the back, before you get to the committee stuff, there's about 70 definitions that, essentially define a lot of things that are used in other rules. And in the app, it's even better because they're italicized and you can click on them and go straight to the definition in question. So if I could give you one piece of advice first, I go on Quizlet or go on some website, which normally I don't really advocate for when you're studying for exams, but if you do some flashcards on the definitions and learn those first, it'll make the rest of the stuff really, really easy. So definitions is like number 1. You have to know, what is a boundary object? What is a loose impediment? What is an obstruction? You should be able to know what those things are before you start to look into relief from those things. And again, just make sure you can use the table of contents in the index to find rules quickly. So now that we understand kind of what you're expected to do in the grand scheme of things as a PGA professional, what are you expected to do in this assignment? Okay, well, they state it pretty clearly for you. So you're expected to document a common scenario that happens at your facility in video forms. You're going to identify a common rule scenario that happens all the time. Here at LACC, for example, we have very tightly mown areas around the greens, and there are sprinkler heads. And people will often want to putt, and obviously the sprinkler head can in some way interfere with their line of play. Now, normally the rules of golf don't allow you to get line of play relief from an obstruction like that. However, we have a local rule in place that I would do a video about, for example, talking about that rule. So think about your facility, think about things that happen commonly at your place, and you're going to basically use key terms you learn in the rules of golf. Once you start to learn how to navigate this book, you're going to be able to apply these rules in common situations and just essentially like build a culture of respecting the rules of your facility. So that's what they're trying to get you to do with this assignment. So what does it need to be? It needs to be at least 30 seconds, no longer than 2 minutes. So it's not like we're not asking you to make like a Netflix series here. You just got to make a somewhere between 30 second to 2 minute video. Hey, I'm so-and-so at so-and-so, and this is what happens here. Do we have any questions so far?
No, sir.
All right, onward and upward. So one other thing they're going to do is after you make your video, you're going to have to write a little bit about it. I think this is important. And I think this is probably the most important part. I mean, you'll pour a lot of your energy into the video, but really make sure that you understand, like, why is it important? Why does this matter? Is this something that happens a lot? What rule is it? It's important that you can contextualize this, because the more you can contextualize the rules, the more you can understand them. And the more you understand them, the easier it is to apply them. And the more of an expert you'll look when Mr. or Mrs. Smith comes in and asks you a question. So really, I encourage you to try to really don't just do the bare minimum when you do these. I think it helps you grow as a professional the more you kind of dive into this assignment. So my favorite part, let's look at a couple scenarios. This is a classic one here. So I don't know how many people watch the Farmers Insurance Open, but everyone's favorite golfer, Patrick Reed. We all love him. We all think very highly of his character. Had a little situation with a plugged ball. So let's take a look.
This was Reed hitting his second into the 10th. Straight vertical, would not be able to see the ball land at this point. One hop and disappears into the thick rough. There you see it never climbed much more than maybe a foot, 2 feet maybe up in the air. Disappeared.
Did it bounce? No, I didn't see it bounce.
Okay, just in case you can't hear the audio, so Patrick Reed is walking up to this volunteer. Now, as you saw in the video, the ball enters the grass. It clearly bounced. Now, he can't see that from his vantage point. He asked the volunteer, did the ball bounce? She said, I didn't see it bounce. All right.
Hey guys, I'm gonna check it. They said it didn't bounce.
Patrick Reed says he's going to check his ball. He marks
The
it.
first thing he asked the marshal. Did the marshal see the ball bounce? Marshal said did not.
They said it didn't bounce,
Calls
and
for
so I
an official.
checked it, and I believe it broke ground, but I'm gonna let you make that call. Right here.
What are you talking about?
Embedded ball.
Oh, where's your
Feels
ball?
like, well, I since I picked it up.
Again, just in case the audio is not very good. So he's now called the official over. He said he's
Robbie,
explaining the situation. Oh, can you hear me?
Robbie, the audio is really good.
Oh, good. Okay, perfect. So then if you can hear, then I won't even restate it. Sorry.
I mean, it seems like it broke ground, but I want you to double check. They said it didn't bounce.
You mind if I stick my finger
Yeah, go
in there?
ahead. That'd be the only way you'd be able to check, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel a lip on it.
See? Yeah, I mean, I thought so,
You
but I
feel
just
that
wanted to
lip?
double check.
Yeah.
So does that tee go, where does that tee go?
You
On
get
it?
one club length from that hole.
From the hole.
Used to be close as you could.
Right.
Now it's one club
Okay.
length.
So you can clean that now.
Yes, you may.
Just wanted to put that.
Sure.
So he got a drop.
Okay, so he ends up taking relief. Basically, gets very shrewdly, finds a pretty flat spot that had been kind of stepped on by spectators. He takes his, acceptable relief within one club length, as the official says, and gets up and down. He makes his par right now. So let's look at the facts of this scenario. Right, Patrick Reed's ball flies left of the green into heavy rough. All right, he does not see it bounce from his vantage point. Very important. He asks the official to confirm if she saw it bounce. She says no. Now, he has reason to believe, because it had rained heavily the day prior, it's really thick Kikuyu rough, and he believes that it is embedded in its own pitch mark. So he marks his ball, lifts it to see if it's embedded, calls over a rules official to confirm that it's embedded. I'm going to make sure that he's getting proper relief. He's granted free relief upon inspection of the pitch mark. He cleans his ball, drops, and saves par from the spot. So let's open it up for a little discussion here. Was this done correctly? Would anybody? How do we think this should have gone? Before I proceed, I want to hear some discussion here.
Robbie, shouldn't the rules official know that it bounced, or did he not know it bounced?
So the rules official also was back. Great question. The rules official also did not see it bounce.
So isn't he's not liable because of the information that he was given?
They're acting on the information they had at the time.
So PGA Tour doesn't have like other sports like NFL where
There's no like video replay that you could go under, and no review.
they
I
don't
know
have,
that there had been discussion about trying to bring some of that out there, but I don't think they had the resources or means to in this particular event.
so if the rule officials didn't see the ball bounce, then I think he did the right thing, no?
Okay. All right. So let's take a look at it. So how do you proceed in this scenario? So let's just say, like Tom, he's down there in San Diego where they have the same kind of Kikuyu rough. This is a situation that could happen to him probably pretty often. So how do you proceed in this scenario, right? Mr. Smith comes in the golf shop. Hey, we were out there playing and, I don't know, something's going on with this plug ball thing. So he comes out there and he shows you a spot. So the first thing you have to do is be able to identify and figure out what the heck is going on. So start by going into your USGA app or looking in your book and figuring out, okay, embedded ball. What does an embedded ball mean? So let's define what the rule means. A ball is embedded. Let's just look at this diagram here. When part of the ball is embedded in its own pitch mark and is below the level of the ground, right? Again, as long as some part of it is below the level of the ground, that's what makes it embedded. So for example, this one on the bottom, even though the ball is sitting down in the grass, because no part of it is below the level of the ground, that's not embedded. So what relief are you entitled to in this situation? So relief is allowed when your ball is embedded in the general area, but if your ball is embedded on the putting green, this is a different scenario. So general area, again, you notice how these are italicized. Going back to the definition. So there's a definition for embedded. There's a definition for general area. There's a definition for putting green, right? So You may mark the spot of your ball when it's on the putting green, lift and clean it, repair the damage, and replace your ball in its original spot. Now that's important. Why do they identify that it's different on the putting green? Because in the general area, you do not get to clean your ball. So you cannot clean your ball. Now you'll note, if you remember in the video, when Patrick Reed first marked his ball and lifted it, he said, he didn't really say anything, but he had his caddy hold it. And then after he was granted relief, he told his caddy, you can clean it now. So a good awareness of the rules. Now,
That's
again,
thing,
your
though.
ball.
There couldn't have possibly have been a lip or an indent, judging by the way that ball,
Well, that's kind of the magic of this, right? So when you see in the video replay, it bounces, but somehow stays in the same spot. It's roughly vertical, and I don't know how he did this. I still don't understand how this is possible, but he had the official feel. There was some kind of a lip. But the thing is we don't know if the ball was actually below ground. We know that it made some kind of a mark, but we don't know that if when he picked his ball up. However, you got to act on the rule. You have to act on the information you have at the time, right? Now, what's your relief? Again, when it's embedded, you get free relief by dropping the original ball. This is in the general area. You can drop the original ball as shown in this diagram, where you see you have this reference point, your point of relief, and then you have a club length on either side that extends behind here. So it can't be any closer to the hole. Now, in a situation where, let's say you didn't do this right, and you didn't drop right, or you placed it back or whatever, you would then be playing your ball from the wrong place. And then, in that case, you would be charged the general penalty. This is very important, a term you're going to see a lot in the rules for the rest of your career. The general penalty is always loss of a hole in match play or 2 penalty strokes in stroke play. Not every penalty is the general penalty, but you should definitely know what that term means. I mean, I would say, other than, I'm trying to think of what other term in the rules comes up more than general penalty, but you should definitely know what that means. All right, so here's the really big question. Was Patrick Reed allowed to lift his ball? Let's discuss.
Well, I mean, I might be wrong, but I would think he is allowed to lift his ball because the information that he had at the time was that it didn't bounce.
Correct. So he's trying to figure out, right? So he marked his ball. Is he allowed to lift it? He is, in fact. So Rule 16.4 clearly states lifting your ball to see if it lies in condition where relief allowed. If you reasonably believe that your ball lies in a condition where free relief is allowed in the rules, but you cannot decide that without lifting your ball, you may mark the spot and lift the ball to see if relief is allowed, and it must not be cleaned. So there you go. There's one example of a scenario that happened. So let's try to contextualize this again to your assignment. So let's say you have a similar situation in your facility. If you have really thick rough, you could do a video showing, all right, hi, my name is, Robbie Schneider. I'm here at the Los Angeles Country Club. And on the 5th hole, as you can see behind the green, we have extremely thick rough with a lot of muddy areas. And sometimes balls get embedded there. You could take your time and spend 30 seconds explaining the difference between an embedded ball, a non-embedded ball. You can show yourself, how do you take relief? There's a video right there, and then you write about it. So there's one scenario where you can kind of use this as a little bit of inspiration for what you want to do. I mean, there's other options too, but let's take a look at one more. This is my favorite. I don't know how many people watch the Players' Championship, but this is a really good one. So I call this one Daniel Berger versus Victor Hovland on where to drop a golf ball.
Flag on the right.
City.
That is dangerous.
Water ball, that's short.
Yeah. Flag perched on the front right here.
Try and figure out exactly where Daniel Berger's ball last crossed the red line.
Now the crowd likes what's happening over at 17. On the leaderboard down the lower left, we see that Cam Smith has come up with a birdie at 11 as well. So look at his round. Birdied 5 of his first 6. Bogeyed his next 3. Now has birdied his next 2.
Still has one par through 11 holes.
One par, right. Par the 5th, I believe it was.
That's right.
And that's it.
That is it.
And he's got a one-shot edge over Paul Casey.
I'm sure they got it on
Keegan
camera.
Bradley.
We can take,
100%. I said you can call rules official and a camera.
Trying to make a determination probably where Daniel Berger's Shot went out, went over.
Well. We thought it was pretty much at the pin, and you were kind of hitting from the right side of the fairway. Yeah.
Just want to make sure everyone can hear the audio so far. So there's a little bit of a lively discussion going on regarding where the ball crossed.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Great.
I don't think it crossed up here. I don't think it crossed up here.
Yeah.
Okay. He's right here.
So some question about where Daniel Berger's second shot crossed into the hazard, where it crossed that red line. Hard to tell. Again, they're 200 plus yards out, but it seemed like Hovland and Damon had a pretty good idea about where it might have been, but we'll let this play out.
Drop that I don't feel 100% correct about. I'm not saying it's all the way up there, but it's not back there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys had the best angle on it, so you'll have to decide that amongst yourselves like you normally would, you know?
I mean, I'll go back to my divot and I will...
I just didn't think it was slicing that much. I thought it kind of started right and just faded, like kind of at the pin and just faded the right edge.
I mean, that's what I saw. It would have, like if we're dropping all the way out here, I mean, like it would have had to cut probably 20 yards from here.
Just so you know.
But not from this point, I don't think. All the way back there, I would say so, but I just did not see the ball was all the way over left side of the pin, all the way over here. I saw it more at the pin. And then obviously cut at the end.
Yeah, I've never taken a bad drop in my life.
I'm not saying anything against that. I just don't.
So where do you have it personally?
Kind of just on the edge, like just short of the fairway, essentially. Kind of on that cross right there.
That's kind of where Joel just said.
Yeah.
So you have it back where you have it all the way back?
Just short of the fairway, right here. Like kind of just on the corner.
So you have it
like
back
over
here.
The grass bunker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have it there. It's like not even a question to me.
I will say this, it was all the way till like the last.
We'll try to give you a look of where his shot.
We're going to go through replay here. Long story short, just so you understand what's going on. The official basically tells him, like, look, you guys got to make a decision, or else you're going to get charged for slow play. So figure it out. And he reluctantly says, like, look, I'm going to go where Victor and Joel Damon said, but I think you guys are wrong. And that's what ends up going. He ends up making bogey from there. So let's just look at the facts here. So Daniel Berger's ball curves right into a red penalty area. Now he decides to take a penalty. All right, he has to, right? And he gets ready to drop his ball within 2 club lengths of where he believed it crossed up near the green. Hovland and Joel Damon dispute the point of entry. They claim it to be well farther back, okay? So to look at it, kind of a diagram that explains, right? So the yellow line is how Damon and Hovland saw it going. So they mentioned this grass bunker right here. They see it crossing here. And meanwhile, our Daniel Berger thought that he hit a cut, and essentially that the ball had started left of the pin and then curved up into the water. So he believes he should be taking his relief right here. And then Damon and Hovland are like, dude, that's ridiculous. You should be taking it back here. And then they end up compromising and kind of go somewhere in the middle. They sort of, this is what the agreement that they come to along with the rules official, which is it's closer to really here. So Hovland and them sort of got what they want and Berger sort of got what he wanted, right? Now, let's look at what actually happened, right? This is video replay, which again, I think Tom alluded to this before. What we're missing in golf maybe is to solve this problem is if they were able to look and see this ball definitely was still on the side of land when it was going over this grass bunker. So it definitely didn't cross here. We'll tell you that much. Now, it may have looked that way from their vantage point because remember, they're looking from over here. He's 234 yards away. They're farther up on the left sides. They're going from their vantage point to them. They didn't see it moving that much, but that's what they went off of. Now, how do you proceed in this scenario? Let's discuss. All right. Well, as a base level, all of us as professionals should know the rules regarding penalty areas. You should know the type of relief that you can take. I don't think that's really what the dispute was about here, right? This is not a matter of, and I don't think that's really the lesson why I bring this up. It's not to teach you like how relief works. Everybody knows that in a yellow penalty area, well, I shouldn't say everybody knows that, but what you'll come to learn as you study the rules is that there is, of course, you can take stroke and distance relief in a yellow area where you can basically hit another ball from where you last struck and then ended up in the water, or excuse me, the penalty area. You could take back on the line relief. So that's this number 2 here. You can see that you take the point of entry, and in a scenario where you have, you can go as far back as you want, keeping a straight line between that point of entry and the hole. And then you have this third option, which only comes into play in what used to be called a lateral water hazard, but now we call it a red penalty area, where you can take 2 club lengths from that reference point. And that's the point that he was trying to use. But that's not really the rule that comes into play here. What we're really talking about here is Rule 20, right? Is that the referee had to make a decision, and the committee rather recognized that these players have to make a decision without unduly delaying play. They have to come to some kind of consensus regarding how to proceed. All right, they can't just stay there forever. Now, in situations where maybe they couldn't make a ruling, you could play 2 balls in stroke play, for example. But furthermore, there's a second part to this rule, which is that why did Victor Hovland and Joel Damon say anything? Well, guess what? When you're playing around a golf and you're in a stroke play competition, you are responsible to protect the field. You have to be able, if you see something that you think isn't right, the rules plainly state that to protect the interests of all other players, if you believe someone has breached or might have breached a rule, and that player doesn't recognize or is ignoring it, you have to tell somebody else. So Hovland and them felt as though that was not a proper drop. They notified him, they brought in an official, and they made a decision together, right? So believe it or not, if now this didn't happen, but let's say that, because I'm going to show you the facts in a second, let's say that Daniel Berger did take relief and it was completely in the wrong spot and it majorly affected the results of the tournament. The committee in some situations could disqualify a player if they found that they knew that and didn't do anything. On the PGA Tour, this is pretty unlikely because there's a lot of other witnesses. But, in your local member guest or something, these kinds of situations can come up and it's not a good situation. So, and let's get to the facts here. What actually happened? So at every PGA Tour event, especially I think in the last 3 years, they use a big supersized TrackMan behind both the tee and behind the green that actually captures full ball flight of every single ball on every single hole. It's how PGA ShotLink works, right? So incredibly, we have full trajectory of this shot. So you can see 4 was his tee shot. This is his second shot from here. That curved line represents the exact point where the ball crossed and the trajectory before it landed in the water. So in fact, while Berger wasn't quite as far up as he thought he wasn't all the way back here either. So here comes another question. What happens in a situation when a ruling is wrong? Because this is going to happen sometimes. You might make a decision and the ruling is wrong. Well, if a committee or a referee makes a mistake, if it's possible to do it under the rules, you can correct it. But if it's too late to do so, the wrong ruling stands. That's part of the rub of the green. It's part of the rules of golf. But here's the bottom line. The reason why I bring up this scenario in particular is that there's going to be a lot of situations where you have your member guest, you have your whatever event, you have some event where people want context and understanding of the rules. They're going to call you over in uncomfortable situations, and it's your job to be like that rules official and to be kind of the, make sure you're getting all the facts before you do anything. Make sure you know, oh, what's going on here? What did you say happened? Notice how he kind of corroborated what Joel Damon said with what Victor Hovland said. Like, these are really important things that are going to help you seem like a proper administrator of the rules when these questions come up. Do we have any questions so far?
Hey, Robbie, it's Tom. One of the things that I was taught very early on when I'm officiating is to start, when you come up to do a ruling, you start asking questions. Mm-hmm. What the form of the event is. It match play, stroke play.
Yeah.
What happened? What was your intent? Who's involved? So you just kind of ask a whole bunch of questions before you start getting into any kind of answers.
I love that. The who, what, when, where, right? He said the first thing he asked, stroke play or match play, right? Just as we even saw in that definition of a general penalty. Well, there's different general penalties for match play and stroke play. And the rules can be different for match play and stroke play, as we're going to see in some of these rules quiz questions. So very important. Figure out the format, figure out who's involved, figure out what was their intent. That's really, really good advice. So again, just a couple of examples here, and to try to contextualize it back to your assignment. If you work at a facility that has a large penalty area, or a red penalty area specifically, good example of a video you could do, right? Hey, here's all the different ways that you can take relief on the 5th hole of X course, and and how to do a proper drop and how to measure the club lengths. I mean, if you can't fill 30 seconds doing that, I don't know what to tell you, all right? But pretty easy, okay? So again, these are just a couple examples, things that I think, make it a little more fun to understand the rules, because you see it even with the best players in the world. These are guys that are experts at playing the game, but sometimes, the rules can kind of make us all look a little silly. So let's talk more about one of my favorite resources, the Rules of Golf mobile app. Okay, so whether you have an iOS or an Android, a Samsung, whatever phone you have, it's available on every mobile device. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to download this on your phone today, because I find, I've spent a lot of time annotating this book so I can find things, but it's not faster than a computer. It's not faster than your phone's going to be. And I'm going to give you kind of a quick workflow of how you can set it up. So when you install the app, you can see it's super easy to navigate. It's very user-friendly. There's like this toolbar at the bottom you can explore. They'll have different videos, the little quizzes. They have all these, they can narrow it down to where you are, or, how do the rules on the putting green work? How do I take relief from a bunker? You can click on all that stuff. But when you first open the app and you click on the rules section, they only show you the player's edition, which is essentially like an abridged version of the rules, which is great. It can help you answer a lot of questions. But I think the real secret sauce is if you go down to these 3 dots where it says more and you go into the settings, there's a setting called expert mode, and turn that on, because it then enables you to go to this. So when you go back to that rules section, all of a sudden you have the player's edition, you have the full rules, you have interpretations, which, by the way, is some of the funniest bathroom reading of all time. There's some really good questions in there that are so hyper specific. And I know it sounds very dry, but honest to God, like, there's some really funny stuff in there. And then, of course, you have like how to proceed in committee situations. How do you mark the course? How do you do all that stuff? So all of that is accessible simply by turning on expert mode. So if we go back to that Patrick Reed scenario, like if you were using your app, you see here, I type in embedded ball, and look, it already populates all these different options. Embedded ball rule. How do I get relief? Relief in general area, relief in penalty area, all that stuff. Like, I can promise you that's going to be a lot faster than navigating through your book. So definitely have this app on hand. I cannot recommend it enough. It states all the rules right here, gives you all the exceptions. You can see, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, as you can see, the definitions are italicized. So you click on any definition and it helps contextualize it. Super, super valuable resource. Another great resource, you have the USGA website, right? So you've got, the basic rules of golf, where it shows you can explore the full guide, you can search things. It has clarifications on what changed in 2019. You've got, you can order printed copies, which are very helpful to have around the golf shop. Nice gift for junior golfers and that kind of stuff. You can learn about the modifications of the rules if you have players with disabilities, if you have events like that. They have all these great workshops, and like you can do the virtual rules school, $25, and it's like going to, like a workshop like I did for 3 days, but you can do it on your own time, on your own schedule. So that's useful. You can ask questions. So very useful to have this, because as I said, most of the time when you get approached, you're going to have your common rule scenarios, but every once in a while, you're going to get one of those whoppers that you may not know the answer to. Well, what do you do in those situations? First of all, find a trusted resource at your club, whether it's your head pro or tournament director or whatever. But even if you can't there, they have experts that are around 24/7 to help answer your questions. I don't know why 24/7, like you have a 4 a.m. golf event or something, but they have them there if you need it. So let's go over my last favorite resource here, which is the quizzes, because I think, especially as you're preparing for your tests and that sort of thing, I think these are very, very useful. So they allow you to take a quiz with a couple questions, and you can actually adjust the difficulty level depending on how hard or easy you want it to be. And I thought, just as a little exercise before we kind of get in the Q&A of all this stuff, that we would just do 2 quick questions and kind of look and see together how we would answer these. So if you don't have the app, I would encourage you to take a couple seconds to install the app, just have it handy, or have your book ready just so we can kind of look this up together. So the first question In a match play competition, the committee stated that a match is to be played from the middle tee markers. Player A accidentally tees off from the back tee markers on the first hole. His opponent, player B, sees this and tells player A, but does not recall the stroke. So player A takes out another ball and he decides, all right, I'll start the hole from the proper tees. A makes a 4 with the ball played from the proper tees, while B makes a 5. So A wins the match 1 up. After the round, B brings this to the attention of the committee. How should the committee rule? I will open it up for discussion.
Well, if they don't make any changes before they tee off on hole number 2, the match stands as it stood at the end of hole number 1.
Okay.
So the match stands as played.
Okay. Anybody else have a guess?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I think because so his opponent B sees this and tells A, but does not recall the stroke. Does not recall the stroke. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A takes out another ball and tees off on the proper tee area. A makes the 4 with the ball played from the proper tee, while B makes a 5. A wins the match 1 up. After the round, B brings us to the attention of the committee. How should the committee rule? He was not seeing match play. If you don't call him on it, then it stands. Couldn't they tee off from anywhere if it's not contested or called to the attention of the player striking the ball?
Great question. So I'm going to call attention to something you just said, because that was.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a question?
My guess would be the match stands as played.
Okay. Excellent. Anybody else have a guess before I proceed? Anybody who's not one of the administrators?
Match is all square. Match is all square.
You say match is all square?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about it. The correct answer is the match stands as played. Rule 61B, Rule 13B, Rule 21B. Now, before I kind of go into what these rules mean, let's discuss, because there was some very good information gleaned from what you said. First of all, John, you said it, and I love that you said it. You said, well, in match play, just like Tom alluded to, very, very important. First question you ask when you go up, what is the format of the event? Rules in stroke play and match play are different. So when we talk about the teeing ground and where you start a hole, how things proceed are different from match play to stroke play. And that's affected in Rule 61B. 61B, ball played from outside teeing area in match play and stroke not canceled by opponent. I'm going to read it straight, letter of the law. So 61B, let's go to it. Give me just a second here. Apologies. There we go. So Rule 61B says, if in starting the play of the hole in match play, a stroke made from outside the teeing area is not canceled, provides that the player play the ball as it lies. However, the player may not always be permitted to play the ball as it lies. For example, and this is kind of not really relevant here, but the point is that in match play, if it's not canceled by the opponent, he could play it as it lies. He didn't. In fact, he actually corrected his mistake, which is fine. And by the way, in 61B, just a flat out rule, I'll clarify this again, because that rule is ball must be played from inside teeing area. A player must start each hole by playing a ball from anywhere inside the teeing area under Rule 62B. Now in match play, there is no penalty, but the opponent may cancel the stroke, may recall the stroke. So just remember, he may recall it, but as we saw in the facts here, he does not. This must be done promptly and before either player makes another stroke. When the opponent cancels the stroke, he or she cannot withdraw this cancellation. If the opponent cancels the stroke, the player must play a ball from inside the teeing area, and it is still his or her turn to play. Again, I want to reiterate that there is no penalty. If the opponent does not cancel the stroke counts, and the ball is in play and must be played as it lies. So everything proceeded as it should. The match stands as played. But as you can see here, if you had searched on the USGA website, under the frequently asked questions, you could have gotten an answer there. You could have gotten an answer in the app. There's a lot of different ways to get it, but there you go. There's an example of how you can use the app or your book to find an answer to the question. Any questions on this one?
I think that's a good point you bring up there, Robbie, because You know, it's a big thing with member trust. You go out there and to give a ruling on a match with your members or with your guests, you know, they oftentimes it's not just knowing the rule, because how do they know that you know the rule? You need to be able to access the ruling in the book and be able to interpret it and articulate it for them to know it. You know, unless they know you and they know that, hey, Robbie's really good with rules. He gave the ruling. We believe him. Let's proceed. Many times, you know, they're not going to take your word for it. You need to be able to articulate the ruling and explain it to them and do it in a timely fashion. So it's not just knowing the rules; it's being able to know the book and how to use it and how to interpret it and how to explain it.
100%, and it really is. It's about, you know, just in the same way that the comma PGA adds credibility to you as a teacher and as a professional, having that book there adds credibility to you as an administrator of the rules. It means that not only are you, you know, intending to give them the right ruling, you're not just trying to like look smart or anything like that. Like, it means that you're acting off of the best information you possibly can, which is really all that they want. Like, you know, like I said, there's going to be rub of the green. Sometimes a ruling may not go their way, but if you make the most noble effort and you truly try to interpret the rule the best you can, most people are going to understand. It's when you try to like interpret it your own way off of memory that you can start to get in a little bit of trouble. Always have some kind of resource at hand. I think that's really, really important advice. All right.
And then Robbie, one other thing I learned, you know, they say, hey, don't say, all right, the ruling is, you know, my ruling is this. Say the rule book says this.
Very, very good.
It's not me saying what it is. It's the rule book says this, or the rules of golf say this, you know. So
yeah, I love that. All right, here we go. Question 2. A and B are playing a singles match. At the 7th hole, player B hits his tee shot 70 yards into an area of tall grass. After searching for 1 minute, B states that he's going to return to the teeing area to play a provisional ball. He's only 70 yards away. After B plays again from the teeing area, well, A, who is still up there, finds B's ball within 3 minutes of the start of the search. So B picks up his second ball, his provisional, plays his original ball onto the putting green. A scores a 6 on the hole. B takes 2 putts to finish the hole for a total of 4 strokes. Before either player makes a stroke from the next tee, A questions B's actions and makes a request for a ruling. What is the ruling? A wins the hole. B wins the hole. The hole is halved, where both A and B are disqualified. I'll open it up for a little discussion.
All right, so.
So couple key facts here, because we talk about this one a lot in the shop. 70 yards, right? So it's not like he hit one down and then 200 yards away and he's got to drive the car all the way back. So, you know, he has his full 3 minutes to search. All right. So within a minute though, he's like, whatever, I'm going to go back to the teeing area. I'll play a provisional. Just remember that fact. It's important.
B wins the hole.
All right. I like it. Anybody else?
Well, this is match play, right? It's a single match
play. Yeah.
Okay. So because he didn't strike a shot after that point in the fairway on the provisional ball, and it's still within the 3 minutes, he can still play that first ball. But if he struck the ball at, let's say he striped it 280 into the tall grass on the right and then played a second shot with the provisional ball, then he's married to that ball. Right? And so long as it fits in the time frame, right? So okay, so A and B are playing a singles match. At the 7th hole, B hits his tee shot 70 yards into an area of tall grass. After searching for only 1 minute, B states he's going to go and return to the tee to play provisional. After B plays from the teeing area, A finds B's ball within 3 minutes of the search. B picks up his second ball and plays his original ball onto the putting green. A scores a 6, B takes 2 putts, makes par. Yeah, I mean, it's within the time frame.
Yep.
He didn't strike a ball. It's just like what happened at Austin Country Club 3 years ago with or 2 years ago with Scheffler and geez, who was it?
Oh, that playoff, right?
Yes.
Scheffler, and who did he beat? He beat, is it Cantlay?
No, I can't recall who it was.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing.
Yeah, it is Cantlay. It is Cantlay.
Was it Cantlay?
Yeah, they said Cantlay can be beaten in a playoff. And, yeah, because Scotty knows.
Because Scheffler had hit the provisional.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was that. I think it's I think it's 7, hole number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they switch it for the PGA Tour event.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hole 16. He hit driver on the provisional and knocked it down there around the green or over the back of the green, and then found the first one along the way and was able to play it because it was within the time frame and he hadn't made a stroke past that point in the fairway. Correct or no?
Correct. So let's talk about the rule. As a very good discussion here, by the way. I love getting all the facts. So let's talk about the rule, right? So the correct answer is B wins the hole, right? So there's 2 rules being applied here, Rule 18.2a and 18.3c. All right, so let's go to the rule book here. All right, so I'm going to go in my book here to 18.2a. 18.2a, when a ball is lost or out of bounds. A ball is lost if not found in 3 minutes after the player or his or her caddy begins to search for it. So we clearly see in the facts here, was found within 3 minutes of the start of the search. All right. However, we also talk about 18.3c, right? So now, again, if you were using the website, you could go, to 18.2a. You could search it and find it right away right there. You could go, there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'm using my book. All right. So there's a couple different ways to do it. But if I look at 18.3c, which says playing provisional ball until it becomes the ball in play or is abandoned. So the rule says the player may continue to play the provisional without, playing provisional ball. The player may continue to play the provisional ball without it losing its status as a provisional ball, so long as it is played from a spot that is the same distance or farther from the hole than where the original ball is estimated to be. Now, in this case, we're actually looking at interpretation C, as you see in the parentheses there. So that's actually saying, 1 second here. I apologize. Here it is. When provisional ball must be abandoned. I apologize. That was the wrong part of the rule. So when a provisional ball has not yet become the ball in play, it must be abandoned in either of these 2 cases. A, when original ball is found on the course outside the penalty area before the end of the 3-minute search time. What you'll find when you do a lot of these quizzes is there's no better feeling on the planet Earth than when you go into the rules book and find the verbatim answer for what you're looking for. It's like, feels like magic. So it says it's flat out right there. When original ball is found on the course outside the penalty area before the end of the 3-minute search time, the player must play the original ball as it lies. Must. When original ball is found in penalty area or is known or virtually certain to be in a penalty area, the player must either play the original ball as it lies or take penalty relief. In either case, the player must not make any more strokes with the provisional ball, which is now a wrong ball, and all strokes with that provisional ball before it was abandoned do not count. Says it plain as day in the rules. Now, again, I bring up this book only to show you that I have a system for finding the answer quickly. It took me 5 seconds to figure out exactly the rule I was looking for because I have a way to look for it. Very, very important. Get tabs, get the app, find whatever you need to get answers to these questions and do these quizzes. They're super important because the more context you get, the more you discuss them, the more you're going to understand them, and the more you understand them, the easier it's going to be for you to talk about them. All right, so again, we consider all the facts. We look at when a provisional ball must be abandoned. It shows it right here, exactly what you're supposed to do. All right, so talked about a lot so far. We talked a little bit about the history of the rules. We talked about who the governing bodies are. We talked about your assignment. We've talked about, some different scenarios and ways you can apply that in your own video. We've talked about, ways you can look up stuff and using the app. Here's a couple other pieces of advice. As I alluded to earlier, really figure out who like the expert is at your club. If it's your director of golf, it's your head pro, your tournament director, like buddy up with them. Make sure that, get a chance to watch when they give rulings. I feel like there's no better way to learn than, A, by doing, but two, by watching them and really getting their advice. Because it really helps to have somebody you can call in times when you get those really weird rulings and you don't want to call the USGA at 4 a.m. or whatever. I would also encourage you to sign up for a rules workshop. It's expensive, but I think it really stands out on your resume, and especially when you talk to members, it just adds credibility to what you do. The fact that you've taken time, we all want to use our Mondays or whatever to play, or like if you work at a club that's closed on Mondays, but if you have your days off and you use them to really grow and get better as a professional, that's only going to serve you better in the future, right? Because there's a lot of us out there and we're all trying to differentiate ourselves. Really important that you try to educate and always get smarter and get better. Have copies of the rules book around your shop. Get a copy of this thing. Again, have this thing around. It's very, very important. And again, like I kind of alluded to this too. Like we talk about the rules all the time in our golf shop. There's nothing we love more than talking about a ruling we see on TV, or, like after our director of golf gives a ruling and a member guest, we'll talk about why. Like the more you talk about it, the more you contextualize it, the more you understand it, the better you are at administering it. So above all else, just one little last piece I want to say before we get into questions. And that is, like, if I can give you any advice that what's helped me get to the facilities I've been lucky enough to work at, is just always keep a curiosity and just drive yourself to learn and grow as much as you can as a professional. I've worked for some really great professionals in my life, great directors of instruction, whether it was Kevin Sprecher at Sleepy, or Dave at Sleepy, or Tom here at LACC, or Jake Tolliver here at LACC. I think whether you're learning about the rules of golf or teaching or playing or whatever, I think the magic skill that we all have to get ahead in this business is to never, ever, ever be satisfied with what you know. Always try to learn more, always try to get better. So with that in mind, I just want to thank you for your time, and I'm going to offer up any questions. I'm here and happy to answer them.
Robbie, I know I speak for Colonel Tom Parker and Tom's son, and on behalf of the Education Committee. Your presentation, your energy, your depth, and your passion for what you do is it's infectious, and it is obvious. And there's, obviously, LACC is not going to bring on, assistant pros that aren't guys that are definitely a cut above your rank and file associates that are out there in the world. And, I'm just going off what I've picked up from you and your presentation and the way you carry yourself and your knowledge and your gravitas. Perfect word, gravitas. You're in the right place. You're at the right place, and I'm sure you're doing it. I'm sure you're doing it well there. And
well, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for coming on the LaunchPad and presenting. We've only had a few people log into the actual live webcast today, but we do put these on the website in the LaunchPad archives. And over the next year, there'll be 60 people that watch your presentation on the rules. And I think there's a tremendous amount of good takeaways from it. And again, on behalf of the Education Committee for the SCPGA, thank you very, very much for your time. And
my pleasure.
And your expertise today. It was amazing. Wasn't he amazing, guys?
Yes, John, I echo your comments. Robbie, was a great, excellent presentation. I love the diversity of your sources of the presentation, with you, with the video, with examples. It was just fantastic. And I define you through your presentation with infinite mindset, someone who wants to learn and improve every day. And I think you're doing that at LACC. And you shine through this presentation. So well done.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Awesome.
Well, just a couple of quick. Oh, sorry, just two more slides really quick. I just want to make sure I highlight this. Couple other opportunities for you guys if you want to learn. As you see here, I'll hand it off to Tom Parker, I think, on this part. But
thanks, Robbie. Yeah, just a final, to finish this all up. And I know we're getting ready for Monday Night Football and the whole bit, but just to finish this all up. Next steps going forward after this LaunchPad session that gets you through your portfolios and your workbooks, getting through the program. If you're part of the Southern California section, like many of us are, we have a phenomenal mentoring program that Tom Sohn, the folks at Arrowwood, maybe that's why he's always meeting with his owner, because they're doing this mentorship program kinds of things. But anyway, Tom and the San Diego chapter have a phenomenal group of mentors and mentees. We do it in all 5 of the chapters in the Southern California section. So if you are looking for some one-on-one coaching, and they get together on a regular basis with your mentor, and you guys decide what that is. It could be for a round of golf, it could be for dinner, it could be for drinks, whatever works for the 2 of you. It helps to have that buddy system to help you through the program. If you're not part of the Southern California section, if you're Northern California, Aloha, Southwest, we get people from those sections in our LaunchPad sessions as well. We have a national mentorship line, so they are always available. They're kind of like what Robbie said, the USJ is 24/7. You can call them at 4 in the morning. You may not get a call back at 4 in the morning there, but anyway, they will definitely call you back on this. So they are there to help as well. And then I kind of do an all else fails. And it actually, somebody contacted me after our first session. He said, all else fails, can I contact you? And yeah, feel free to contact me or anybody on the education committee, and we'll get you guys in line with somebody to help mentor you through. So it always helps to have a buddy going through, this material and helping answer questions and helping give you, a kick in the behind when you need it. But it really helps to get you through the program. So.
I love it. I got to sneak 2 more slides in. Just want to say thank you and give you my contact info. Got to give a little Buckeye love, as you see by my background here. Proud Ohio State graduate. So if you ever have any questions,
I won't tell you that.
I knew I'd get him.
My daughter went to my daughter's a Wolverine, so she went to Michigan.
Well, guys, it's been really nice. I can't talk to Mr. Parkin. I'm just kidding. No, so if you have any, if you ever have any questions or concerns, I have the golf shop number here and my cell phone number. So reach out to me at any time. I'm always here to help. I love this game, and I love sharing anything I know with anyone that wants to listen. So feel free to reach out anytime, and I'll just leave with one quote. There are 3 kinds of golfers: the ones that can count and the ones that can't. So thank you very much, guys.
That's good.
Thanks, Robbie.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.